Hey everybody, welcome to Two Comic Book Dudes Dead Talk, TCBD Dead Talk. We are back with Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 9, and this is the mid-season return, I guess you want to call it, right?
Yeah, mid-season premiere.
Premiere, yeah, that's what they called it. So it was a good one. No Way Out was the title. I'm Aaron, Editor-in-Chief of Comic Booked.
Hey everybody, Justin, Managing Editor over at Comic Booked.
And we've been doing this. We've been doing this for what now? For all of this season, right? Did we do anything for Season 5? I don't think we did we?
I don't think we did. I think we did like a this season just dead episode for a second.
Oh, yeah.
I do like the background though.
Yeah, that was a new background. I just designed that today, so it took me like forever, like 5 minutes. So, but at least you know what you're watching, TCBD Dead Talk. Hey, all right.
Yeah.
I thought about putting this season and episode number down at the bottom. That was too much work. So, this is what you get, folks. That's right. So let's talk about this. So this mid-season premiere just came on last night. We're like a day behind, but I was out watching Deadpool. So, yeah, and we'll talk about that in another show. Definitely a good movie, but yeah. Anyway, so we know when we left the folks at the end of the mid-season, there was some awful stuff going on. The bell tower had just fallen. The walls were down. The walkers were in. The horde was in the town. Everybody was kind of stuck in the house, and they had basically, you had Rick and the group, the biggest group were in the main house, and they were rubbing themselves down with walker guts to try to get away. And then you had Morgan and Carol and the Wolf and Denise all in with, who else was with them? That was it, right?
Yeah, they were all in the same house, but some people were in the basement.
Right, the ones in the basement were Eugene, Rosita, Tara, and I think that's it, the three of them.
Mm-hmm.
So then we know, Abraham and Sasha and Daryl were off somewhere else. They'd gotten a tanker, and they were heading back. And then we had Glenn and Enid were outside of the wall, and Maggie was up on the wall. That's kind of where we left everything. Maggie was on that little stand, and basically all the walkers were attacking it, so she was getting ready to fall, and Glenn's freaking out, like, what do we do? So we've lost a lot of people so far this season, quite a few deaths, and this episode was no exception. So if you haven't watched it yet, you might want to watch it first before you hear us talk about it, because there's a lot of stuff that we're definitely going to be spoiling as we talk through here.
All right, so that's your warning. So from this point on, you can't be mad if we say something and you didn't know.
Yep, I was pausing for effect, so yeah. All right, well, we start right off with really this whole replay of episode 3 from season 1, which was called Guts, where Rick first kind of gets the idea of hacking open a walker and rubbing the guts and hanging entrails over himself, and him and Glenn walking out into the rain. So it's kind of a replay of that. And it's good because a lot of times people criticize the show, how come you don't use good ideas from the past? Why don't you ever redo stuff? You think if it works, you would do it again.
Right.
So this time they did it, and it didn't rain. I expected it to start raining, So.
Yeah, I really thought it was going to at one point. Yeah. I'm like, what? Here comes the rain. Like when Denise, later on, never mind.
Yeah.
I'm jumping.
It was interesting. I mean, that would, always that risk, especially in Georgia, right? You never know when it's going to rain.
Oh, yeah.
So, yep.
It's raining right now.
Is it really?
Yeah.
We were getting icy, sleety stuff up here, so it was a lot of fun. Yeah. So, at the end of the last episode, I kind of like the main thing I yelled at the TV when I was watching the mid-season finale was, Scott, shut up. So, because he was going, Mom, but he was amazingly nuts. He was not saying Mom at the beginning of this episode. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, like they kind of quelled that down.
Yeah, and, by the end of the episode, you don't really care because
it doesn't matter.
All right. Yeah, so we start off the episode actually with Daryl, Abraham, and Sasha, and they're heading back with the tanker, and they get stopped by this group of guys on motorcycles. And this is the first we finally hear about Negan. and that they're taking all this stuff because all your stuff belongs to Negan, all your property. So,
yeah.
And then he tells him, hey, bite, chew, swallow, repeat. I thought that was kind of funny. So that whole thing. And so at one point he sends Daryl back with the T, one of his guys, back to the back of the truck to start looking through the truck and finding all the other stuff that they have that these guys are going to take. And he pulls 2 guns on Abraham and Sasha. I'm going to shoot them. And then he goes, oh, no, I'm not going to shoot you. And he says, wait. Yes, I am. And just as he goes to pull the triggers, boom, they all explode. And Daryl comes around the corner holding the RPG that Abraham had gotten in the first part of the season. So That was pretty cool. So Daryl to the rescue. That was awesome. So we know Negan's out there. He's probably not going to be happy because Daryl just blew up a bunch of his guys. We know in the comics that Negan is kind of the big bad guy around issue 100 and a little bit after with the all-out war between him, his group, and Rick's group. And he ends up killing Glenn in the comics. So we know potentially that's coming. Whether in the show Glenn will be replaced with Daryl, we don't know. Daryl get beat. A lot of people speculating that Daryl may be the one to bite it, but we don't know that. From what I understand, Negan's not going to show up till almost the end of this season.
Right.
So he's kind of a, ta-da, here I am. And then
I think after this, we're going to get some rebuilding episodes.
Yeah, I think so. But I think we still got the wolves to deal with because that wasn't all the wolves. And I don't think from what we've seen, the wolves and Negan's men aren't the same. They're definitely 2 different groups. So we still have the main group of the wolves to deal with. But we don't know what's going to happen there. So there's still a lot of threats out there. But definitely this episode ends with Rick having hope, which he never had before, which is great. Which is amazing after all the stuff that happens in this episode. You're going, how could you possibly? But yeah. So we take a commercial break, switch back to town, and we'll see if the guts work as the group kind of meanders through the horde, and the horde bumps into them, and they kind of, just keep moving. And it seems to be working. And I love how, as they're going heads down, it's silent except for the music, and the music is just like solid tones and bells, kind of, and that music keeps rising because it's almost like the tension of the situation is getting worse and worse and worse, and then of course it kind of blows up here in a little while. But what did you think about that with the silence? And near the end of that scene, you could hear the walkers in the background just kind of rah, rah, rah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it put cinematically it was great because it put you kind of in that scene with them.
Yeah.
You have no sound. You're just like everybody's holding their breath, just trying to get through the situation.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Something bad happens.
But first, Gabriel volunteers to take Judith as they kind of get to a place where they stop and they're like, okay, we're here. Everybody's going to go do their thing now. And, Rick's like, you go there, and we'll do this. And so that's like, all right, we can do it. And Gabriel takes Judith and takes off. And I think, before he's always been kind of a pansy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's really realizing that he has to show his value to this community. I mean, Rick's made it pretty clear that, they have a problem with him, but I think at this point, he shows his value by taking care of Judith, and Rick says, thank you. Instead of what I felt like he should have said is, you better.
Mm-hmm.
I
will kill you. Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, Gabriel kind of comes through in this episode. It's really a different face of Father Gabriel than we've seen in the past. So it's pretty interesting. So they're going to go to the quarry and they're going to get vehicles. That's kind of their goal here. As they're going, Sam's like, I'm going to go. I want to go. The little kid, Sam. And he's like, I have to go. He's trying to show that he's strong, I think.
Right.
But you can just see that fear right under the surface is just there, and it's just bubbling, and it's ready to go. There's some great walker makeup in this scene because you got so many walkers in this horde. It's just awesome. I like the fact that they don't do a lot of like digital replication.
That it's all like real.
It's all people. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like that. So then before we get back to the bad stuff, we go to Rosita, Tara, Morgan, Eugene, and Carol, who are all in the house together. They're kind of all, talking about what's going on. Denise and the wolf are gone, and they're basically hiding in the midst of the horde down in like a little stairwell. And the whole time he's talking with her and telling her, you've been given a gift, and I'm going to show it to you and all this stuff. And it's just like, it's really weird. Well, Glenn and Enid found a church outside, and they're really trying to, find stuff. And he tells her, look for hollowed out Bibles. They probably got a gun in them or something. And she's like, yeah, whatever. At one point, while you're looking for the Bible Glock, this is pretty funny. But she does find one, a cigar box. She's like, yep, there you go. I told you. So that was funny. But the interaction between the two of them is really good. Mm-hmm. Because Enid, this whole time, has kind of been pushing away, rebelling against the fact that she's part of this community. And I think Glenn really gets through to her at this point because of his insistence that she stay with him and that he wants to save her, But he tells her, he said before to her, you can't lose the people, if you run away, then you lose the people that you love, even the ones that aren't here anymore. And she's like, what do you mean by that? And the fact that he explains that, saying, they all make you who you are. Right. And so if you run away, then you kind of forget that and you lose them. And that's not what we want to do here. So I like that. I thought that was good.
Oh, yeah.
So Enid sees the printing on the wall, the painting on the wall that says "Faith without works is dead." Right. A lot of Bible verses in this, but it's interesting. Mm-hmm. So he says to her, "They're still here because you're still here." And then Enid wants to what's that? Oh, okay. So the plan then basically is for Enid to go climb up to save Maggie while Glenn distracts the walkers.
Right.
That's going to happen eventually. So now we get back to bad stuff.
Super bad thunderstorms now.
Oh no. We may have to pause and come back. Yeah. We'll hurry up. All right. I've only got a page and a half of notes left. So this darkness falls as they're weaving through the horde back to Rick and all the folks. And this scene was really interesting because Carl's hat is setting on his head in such a way that the brim shadows over his right eye. Okay, now, yeah, I was like, oh, that's cool. But in the comics, those of you who haven't been reading the comics, it's been several issues ago, Carl was shot in his right eye and he lost his right eye. And actually the scene where in the beginning when he gets gut shot and taken to Herschel's, instead of getting shot in the gut, he actually gets shot in the eye. Mm-hmm. I think that's when that happens. So anyway, so he loses his eye, has a hole there, wears a patch for a long time. So, I've been waiting for when's that going to happen. And then so here's this foreshadowing, right?
Well, we thought it was going to happen in like the garage a couple episodes ago.
I know. I kept saying, oh, it's going to happen. But anyway, so I thought that was interesting, though, that foreshadowing kind of happened there, that maybe that's going to happen this episode. So then Sam starts freaking out. And Sam, he just stops. And he won't move. And he's watching the walkers. And he's hearing Carol, who scared the crap out of him by telling him basically, there's monsters out there. And they roam around the night. And they're going to eat you. Eat you while you're still alive. Like, way to go, Carol.
Yep.
So they do. They come behind him and chomp him on the head and chomp him on the neck, and he's gone.
He's gone.
That means that Jessie flips out, and she's like, "Oh no, Scott!" And then they get her, and I'm like, "Holy crap!" So Jessie's gone, Scott's gone, and I thought, now we're gonna wake up and it'll be a dream, right?
Yeah, that's what because it slowed down like crazy. I'm
Yeah,
like, this isn't really happening.
it just seemed like some kind of a dream sequence or something
Like
that
it's
Rick
all
would
in the
just
kid's
snap
head.
out of, or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, yeah. So, but then so now we got those two down. Jesse, we kind of thought that was going to be Rick's love interest here, and so I guess he's just not allowed to be happy.
Yeah.
I think they just don't like Rick. I don't know what the deal is. I guess they haven't made him lose his arm yet, so they want to make him lose everything else first. I don't know.
Our hero needs to struggle.
I guess he's struggled enough. So yeah, my note says, then Jesse is next. Chomp chomp. So then Robbie, of course, we thought he was going to shoot Carl before this all happened. Now he pulls a gun out, points it at Rick, and he says, you, and then Michonne stabs him through the back.
Mm-hmm.
And his arm jerks and he pulls the trigger and he falls down dead. Rick's watching Michonne, and then Michonne is like, and then they look and there's Carl laying there or standing there with.
Carl says dad.
Oh, that's right. He says dad. And everybody, and then he's got his eyeball missing. Mm-hmm. Gunshot wound to the eyeball. So Carl falls over. Rick picks him up and starts running, and Michonne's in front of him, hacking a path. I thought that was like awesome. That she was just hacking through the walkers. So, then we kind of jump back with that whole, because there's all this stuff is kind of happening at the same time. So we jump back to Eugene, and I thought it was interesting. Eugene says, we're going to have to fight our way out. And Rosita's like, not you.
You're not very good.
Like, you suck. You proved that time and time again. So he's still kind of like gnawing that over, just mulling that over while he's sitting there, because he realizes they all know he's a coward. He's shown he's a coward, and he just has a real hard time. He wants to overcome that. So anyway, then you got the wolf, and basically, so at this point, the wolf and Denise are getting ready to run towards the gate and get out. But as they run, Denise gets overtaken by a walker, and he comes back to help her in fighting them off. He gets bit, and then she takes him, and she's like, if you get me to the infirmary, I can save your life. So they go to the infirmary. The whole time, let's see here. Okay, so then Carol, meanwhile, is looking out on the horde, and Morgan comes in, and they kind of have words with each other, and she says, I should have killed you. And he's like, you can't. I was like, I would have, oh yeah? Boom. But, we can't kill Morgan off yet. But that whole thing, that interchange, he's just like, you can't kill me. What would Rick do? And I think that's really the only thing holding her back. Is like, if it weren't for Rick, Carol would have put a bullet in his head right then.
So yeah.
Because if it weren't for him and all of his stupid mess with this wolf, we wouldn't have this situation. So anyway.
That's very true.
So the wolf and Denise head to the infirmary, and all on the way there, as they're running across, he's baffled by the fact that she's putting a tourniquet on with his belt, and he's like, the ladder was clear, I could have gotten away. She's like, no, but you came back for me. And he's like, but why? Because he really felt like he had changed into this person, this wolf, and he could not change back. And she said, maybe because you changed again, But then Carol puts a bullet in his head, or a couple in his chest or whatever. I guess a couple in his chest, right?
Yeah.
And then Denise makes it into the infirmary, and so that's kind of sad. But, he's a wolf, so he's dead now. And Carol finished her job, so that was good.
Good job, Carol.
Yep.
Kill the bad guys, whoever this may be.
That's what she's supposed to do.
There was no redemption.
No, maybe he did have his redemption. He's like, I am a good person. Oh. Well,
he did it after he got shot. He still grabbed hold of that walker.
Yeah, he was still kind of saving her, so that was good. So then, basically, Denise gets in there, and she immediately turns into working mode. She sees Rick coming with Carl in his arms. There's a problem. They're like, did he get bit? And she could see, no. And she says, get me this, get me this, get me this. Get the gurney, let's go. And she opens the door, lets him in, and starts working on Carl right away. Yep. And that was good. I thought the fact that she jumped to action, because before, when she was, when the other doctor died, or died,
Anytime. Yeah.
whatever happened with him, right? The fact that Rick blew his head off. Anyway, she was very hesitant and very unsure of herself.
Very timid.
But
yeah.
well, yeah. But in the heat of battle, she was ready to jump right in and do the work that needed done. So that was cool. I liked it.
Yeah. She saw them coming in and was just took a breath and was like, all right, here we go.
Yep. That was cool. Well, I guess she figured she survived the whole thing with the wolf, got away from the walkers, the adrenaline's still pumping. Let's do this.
Yeah.
So, but Rick kind of snaps. Well, he's like, what's that?
Yeah, I think he kind of realizes that in that situation, there's nothing he can do in that room. So
True.
He's going to go do something he can take care of.
True. And I think, too, to a point, he's like, these walkers have taken everything they're going to take from me. They're not going to take this town. And he's going to go out there by himself, and he's going to clean up the streets, Like, whoa. So he goes out there with his hatchet, and he just starts whacking away at these things, taking them out one after the other. And everybody else sees. Michonne goes after him, and, a couple of the other guys, Daniel, I think is one guy's name, and a couple of the other ones go with him. And then there's some other folks from across the street in another house. They see him. They come out with their machetes, and pretty soon everybody's in the streets just hacking and whacking.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. Even Eugene.
Even Eugene. And I loved the line, because they're like, well, you sure you're up with this? Like, no one gets to clock out today. Yeah. He says, hell, this is a story that everybody's going to tell, I thought that's pretty cool that he finally steps up and he's going to do something. So I don't remember seeing him whack anybody in the head, though. Do you?
Yeah. No.
Oh, he was whacking everybody. Everything was so flashing so fast there in that scene that it's pretty cool. Yeah.
He was rolling like a frontline fighter.
Yep. So the last part of this episode was still like boom, 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 boom. There was still a whole bunch of stuff to happen because Glenn and so Enid runs for the thing. Glenn's like, hey, over here. And he starts shooting at a few of them. Of course, the Walker horde just like converges on him and he's like pushing them back and shooting them. And Maggie's up there trying to shoot a couple of them. And you're like, oh, Glenn's dead for sure. Again. Mm-hmm. We just saved him. Now he's dead again. But maybe he'll wiggle under a dumpster. I didn't see a dumpster there.
I was like, is there a hole in the fence there? Like,
yeah, right.
Why is he stopping there?
You're hoping for something. And it shows up. Abraham and Sasha mowing down the crowd with their machine guns, and that was pretty cool. But another amazing save for Glenn. So he's not voted off the island quite yet.
So many Sasha.
I think we lost enough this episode.
Yeah. They definitely send the neighborhood.
Yeah, for sure. So Daryl pulls the tanker up, drenches the lagoon with fuel, lights it up with an RPG, and it draws all the walkers in. The ones that don't go get hacked up, and everything's great. The new day dawns, and at this point, everybody fought together, which is really the key, because this is what before, I think you still, no matter what, you still had Rick's group and the folks from the town. Right. Even with Deanna dead, we were still those two factions, but this was the thing that brought everybody together, and it was really good. I thought they, what Rick says as he's sitting there with Carl, I mean, everybody's bloody, exhausted, but sunlight outside, everybody, at least kind of relaxing, getting fixed up, patched up, and he's holding Carl's hand, and he's talking to him, and he's like, I never thought that they could learn, having lived inside these walls. Mm-hmm. But after seeing what they could do, what we could do together, and then he finally has like opened his eyes to the vision that Deanna had for this town, which is great. So, and it's interesting because in the comics, we have 3 walled cities. We have the kingdom, we have the farm, and we have Alexandria. Mm-hmm. So, we know eventually there are going to be more walled areas. This Alexandria will just be the first, but he's got the vision now, which is great. So, and Carl squeezes his hand at the end. Yay! So
now we'll have Pirate Carl.
Yeah, Pirate Carl.
Carl, you call me Carl.
That's right. He'll be Pirate Carl, and his dad could be Peg Leg Rick eventually. Not Peg Leg, but Peg Arm, whatever. Artificial arm.
Peggy.
So all in all, it was an excellent episode.
Yep, good return.
I was sad about losing Jesse, but yeah, that was probably the toughest loss of this episode.
It really
because
was.
Now what? Now what's going to happen?
I could have given up some other characters before her, but whatever.
Yeah, Eugene could have got chomped.
He's got to learn to make bullets.
Yeah, Eugene has an important job, and I'll tell you what. Okay, we're going to talk about this because I just read it. Hold on here. Walking Dead 151 it was just out this not last week, but week before.
I got it. I haven't read it yet.
Did you read it? Oh, you haven't read it yet. Okay. This is good. One of the big things in here is Eugene. And now on the front we have Dwight. And Dwight in the show is the guy who stole Daryl's crossbow and stuff, took his motorcycle and all that. But Dwight plays a pretty important role in really Rick's new plan, which is basically we need an army. We need an army to fight back against the Horde. We need an army to fight back against the Whisperers. We need people trained to fight. We don't just need a community of people. We need people who can defend our what we have. And it makes sense. You have, you build a republic, you build a military to help defend that republic. That's kind of what we've got here. We've got the Republic of Rick, and he wants his army. So it's important. Dwight has had some military background. We don't know exactly what, but Rick says to him, "You are a natural leader. I need you to help me lead these people." And Dwight's like, "I don't want anything to do with this," but I think he sees that this is his place. He felt out of place in this up until now, so it's pretty cool. But Eugene's big thing in here, Eugene is working on the radio. So they have a CB radio or a ham radio.
Mm-hmm.
And Eugene's been playing around with it, and he got it working. And you hear the staticky, and he's like, "Okay, anybody out there? This is Eugene Porter. Anybody out there? Can anybody hear me?" And then you hear, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so then on the last page of this book, I'm going to spoil it, there is a broadcast. And it says, "Eugene Porter, we hear you." And then basically it's just communication from the outside. We don't know who it is.
Could be anywhere.
Pretty cool. Something new. So this is a good book. If you want to start into a story and you haven't read any of it before, this is an awesome book to pick it up. 151, Walking Dead, from Image. It's only 2 weeks old, so you ought to be able to find it. Well, it's not, this past Wednesday, but Wednesday before. Yep. Great jumping on point for the story. You kind of got a new storyline kicking off, and some big stuff happening. So
I'm glad I picked it up. I picked up 150 just because it was 150, and then I picked up 151 just to see what was going on. But yeah, cool.
Yeah, and 150 was really good because 150 was kind of the catalyst to whatever's going to happen in this new story. It's the reason Rick wants the army. It's really just a big fight, but it was good. Yeah. So
cool.
All right, so we know from next episode there was just some little blurbs. We've seen some stuff with Daryl and Rick. Some new guy. We don't know who the new guy is. But I think, was it Michonne or Sasha or somebody says we can help you, and he says no one can help me. We don't know who he is, but some new character.
See a lot of Daryl and Rick running.
Yes. They haven't done a lot of that lately, so it'll be good to see them run.
I'm getting cardio in.
Yeah, it's good for them. All right. Well, folks, like, share, subscribe. Please comment. Let us know what you thought about this latest episode. What do you think for next? Who's going to die next? What's going to happen the rest of the season? I mean, that's always the prediction. Who's going to die next?
Who's on the Deadpool?
Yeah, that's right. We should start one of those, and then if you're right, you get a comic or something. I could pick up a couple extra comics of Walking Dead, an extra issue or something next time, and maybe
have a copy or have an issue to give away. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. I might try that too.
Yeah. So good stuff, but let us know what you think. Let us know if we're boring or if I'm boring, because I talk the whole time. Maybe next time I'll send my notes over to Justin and he can talk the whole time.
I'll just read paper. No, I should take notes. I just kind of watched it. So.
Yeah, well, I've just watched it before, and I wanted to not forget anything, And I kind of like the play-by-play, and I've heard other people say they like the play-by-play stuff too. So,
Yeah.
especially if you've watched it, and I talk about it, and you go, "Oh, I didn't see any of that," or "I saw this part. How come you didn't talk about this?" Let me know. I mean,
Right.
there's maybe stuff that I missed while I was taking notes, but um, I'm pretty good about watching shows and keeping all the details. So, yeah, but we appreciate you taking your time to watch. Definitely catch up with us next week. We'll do the same thing to finish out this season. So we'll do a Dead Talk episode every Sunday night or Monday night and have it up for you to read. Okay,
Yep.
and
Thanks a
we'll
lot.
talk to you later. Thank you.